This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Presenting petitions, the honourable member from La Salle Verdun.
Merci, monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to table a petition. 514 people have signed a petition. This petition seeks to reduce noise levels associated with the construction of Champlain Bridge in my riding. This is for the Minister for Infrastructure. The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent Leamington.
Canadians pay some of the highest cell phone rates in the world, but increasingly service is also being deteriorated. And so complaints are actually up to the Commission of Complaints for Telecom and Television Services, 12%, and 36 breaches of the Code of Conduct have occurred. And so petitioners have petitioned this chamber to call on this House to call for the Government of Canada to direct the CRTC to immediately review the integrity of Canada's cell phone infrastructure and provide a quality of service report to this House by the end of February 2024, and calling for the Standing Committee on Industry and Technology to undertake a study comprised of telecom service providers and the industry, etc., and again report back to this House on the integrity of our oversubscribed telephone infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting petitions, the honourable member from Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure I table today a petition in regards to the relationship between Canada and India and the desire, as the community has grown exponentially over the last number of years, for the demand to have more direct flights coming from Canada, going to India, and ultimately returned. This is something that I know is very important to my constituents and to constituents of many members of Parliament, and I hope that the air industries and different ministries would at least pay attention to what it is that our consumers would like to see happen.
The honourable member from Battle Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as always, it's an honor to be able to stand in this place and present petitions, and of which I present a unique petition today, because this particular petition was offered to the member from Skeena-Bulkley Valley, but he refused to present it in this place. So therefore, I stand on behalf of the people of Skeena-Bulkley Valley and present this petition that calls upon a number of things, highlights the absurdity of liberal gun rules, and call upon the Government of Canada to stop any and all current and future bans on hunting and sport shooting firearms. Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to stand in this place on behalf of the people of Skeena-Bulkley Valley and represent them, because their MP certainly is it.
Well done.
The honourable petitions, honourable member from Kitchener Centre.
Point of order, Speaker.
Point of order. The honourable member from Timmins James Bay.
Well, I know it's the second day back, but the Speaker is well aware that people cannot use petitions to make political speeches. They're supposed to read the petitions. I'd ask the Speaker to review the rules on petitions.
So I'd like to remind members that the tradition is for members to present petitions and not to comment on those things. So I'd ask all members to do that. The honourable member from Kitchener Centre rising on for petition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to rise to present one of many petitions that have been sought to be presented by MPs over the last few weeks. It notes that there's a need for electoral reform that it continues to be an issue for citizens of all political persuasions. They note that politicians cannot agree on the best way forward, and that they note that it calls for a new approach for developing a citizens' consensus on electoral reform. These petitioners call on the House of Commons to first of all give citizens a voice on the subject of electoral reform and a right to make recommendations. More specifically, they'd like to see a representative and nonpartisan citizens' assembly that has the resources, expert support, and sufficient time required to come to a citizens' consensus on recommendations to be delivered to the government. And they call on MPs of all parties to vote in support of motion M86, Citizens' Assembly on Electoral Reform, which will be debated by this House and voted on in due course.
The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a number of petitions to present to the House today on behalf of my constituents, people from Skeena Bulkley Valley and various other places across the country. The first petition is regarding this government's decision to cut funding for women's shelters. They note that women's shelters are sadly seeing increased demand, that the high cost of living and the housing crisis have made it harder for women and children fleeing violent situations, and that we're living through a time where this Liberal government, quote, is dramatically increasing spending on bureaucracy and consultants while they are cutting $145 million of funding for women's shelters. Petitioners therefore call on the Government of Canada to restore funding for women's shelters. The next petition I'm tabling is in favor of an excellent private member's bill put forward by the member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan. This is a bill that would add political belief and activity as prohibited grounds of discrimination to the Canadian Human Rights Act, and it would protect the ability of people with diverse political opinions to be able to express those opinions and speak out about their ideas without fearing reprisal in an employment or other context if they work in the federally regulated sector. Petitioners are asking the House to support Bill C-257, and they want the government to defend the rights of Canadians to peacefully express their political opinions. The next petition that I am tabling is calling for the release of an important democracy and human rights activist in Hong Kong, Ms. Chow Hang Tung, Vice Chairwoman of Hong Kong Alliance, has been involved for many years in advocacy on human rights issues in China and Hong Kong, and fought diligently for democracy, encouraging Hong Kongers to participate in the pro-democracy social movement. She was arrested and charged under the national security law and sentenced to 22 months in prison as part of an effort to crush freedom and diversity of opinion in Hong Kong. She's also been awarded the Outstanding Democracy Award by the Chinese Democracy Education Foundation. Petitioners want to see the Government of Canada advocate for her release and dropping of all charges, as well as for the Hong Kong democracy movement and the release of other unjustly detained political prisoners. The next petition that I'm tabling deals with another human rights issue in the same region. It deals with the persecution of Falun Gong practitioners in China. Petitioners identify the history of the persecution of Falun Gong practitioners, including but not limited to the horrific practice of organ harvesting. They want to see the House take additional action to raise the plight of Falun Gong practitioners and to seek to hold those responsible for this persecution accountable through sanctions and other means, and to continue the work that this House began on combating forced organ harvesting that we began with the passage of a private member's bill on that issue. And next, I'm tabling a petition regarding parental rights, regarding the role of parents in the lives of their children. Petitioners highlight the fact that the Prime Minister has tried to interfere with New Brunswick's decisions with respect to parental rights, whereas the Leader of the Opposition has told the Prime Minister to butt out of those decisions. Petitioners know that in the vast majority of cases, parents care about the well-being of their children and love them much more than any state-run institutions, and the role of government is to support families and respect parents, not to dictate how they should make decisions for their children. The undersigned call on the Government of Canada to butt out and let parents raise their own children. Next, Speaker, I'm tabling a petition about changes that the government has made to natural health product regulation. Petitioners note that the government is threatening access to natural health products through rules that will mean higher costs and fewer products available on store shelves. They note that so-called cost recovery provisions could impose massive costs on all consumers of natural health products and undermine access for Canadians who rely on these products. Further, that provisions in the last Liberal omnibus budget have given the government substantial new arbitrary powers around regulation. Of course, there is a private member's bill from a Conservative member that seeks to reverse these changes. And petitioners call on the Government of Canada to implement the proposals in that excellent Conservative private member's bill, that is, to reverse the changes made in the last Liberal budget regarding natural health products. And Mr. Speaker, the next petition that I will table highlights the issue of euthanasia or medical assistance in dying, and in particular a proposal to extend this to children. In a context where we see continuous radical proposals for the expansion of an already deeply troubled system, petitioners are concerned about a proposal from one witness before committee to expand euthanasia to include, quote, babies from birth to 1 year of age who come into the world with severe deformities and very serious syndromes. Petitioners underline their view that infanticide is always wrong, and they call on the Government of Canada to block any attempt to legalize the killing of children in any situation for any reason. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the honourable member from New Westminster, Burnaby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I wanted to come back to the unparliamentary comments made by the member from Battle River Crowfoot. My colleague from Timmins James Bay addressed that a few minutes ago. And I wanted to cite a ruling on December 12th. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies also attempted to do the same thing in an unparliamentary way, tried to mislead the House and mislead Canadians. At the time, Mr. Speaker, you'll recall that the ruling was that the attempt by the member from Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies was not permissible, and that the member should rise and apologize. So I believe you should be asking the member from Battle River Crowfoot to apologize for his unparliamentary use of the petition sector and for misleading the House. Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank the honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby for raising this point and reminding the chair of a similar ruling in the past. And it's a new year, it's the second day that we're back, so it's a little bit rusty in terms of the application of the youth. But I do understand and I do agree and affirm the statement, which was the decision that was made by the chair. But I see that the member from Battle River Crowfoot is on his feet, and I hope he will be able to put this issue to rest. The honourable member from Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the opportunity to highlight that I very specifically, in the statement that I made during petitions, did not politicize.
Before I go to point of order, I'm just going to take a little minute here. So we're order. I'm going to ask the honourable member from Prince George Peace River, please, colleagues. Thank you. Mr. Kirk is rising on the point of order. I'm going to go to the point of order raised by Mr. Julian, but I'm hoping that Mr. Kirk will, sorry, my apologies, not mention a member. I will, no, there is no intention to name you at this point. And I hope there will never be an opportunity to do so. The member is an honourable member, and I'm hoping that he can help us restore order to the House. So I'll ask the honourable member, please, to continue with his statement, but very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I intentionally did not politicize the content of the statement, but rather highlighted the fact that there was a particular member of this place that did refuse to present that petition when given the opportunity in the past. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask that my word be allowed to stand because it simply is the truth, and I intentionally did not politicize what those petitioners from Skeena.
Thank you. The honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The rules of this House are quite clear. You've asked the member to apologize. He's refused. He should not be recognized in this House until he apologizes.
So I thank the honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby. I didn't ask, actually, again, just a little rusty. I didn't ask the member to apologize. I did ask him to stand up to express, and I was hoping that he would do so voluntarily. But I will ask, given the ruling on December 12th of last year by the ruling, and to be consistent with that ruling, I'm going to ask the honourable member to withdraw the comments that could be arranged to this, déranger cette chambre, puis à présenter ici.
That could bother this House and present his apology.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask for a clarification of the ruling before I stand and apologize for something that I believe I did nothing wrong.
So I'm going to ask once again to be consistent with the ruling of this chair for the member from Peace River Northern Rockies who was asked to apologize, because when you present petitions, colleagues, there should be no comment aside from the substance of the petition. To mention whether or not another member, another honourable colleague had presented it or didn't, or for whatever reason, that should stand as it is. So I will, before we go to points of order, so I'll ask the honourable member, please, from Battle River Crowfoot, to be consistent with this. To start the new year right, to please just briefly apologize and withdraw those comments. And in presenting petitions in the future, all members should just focus on the substance of the petitions and not make comments as to onto other issues. So I'll ask the honourable member from Battle River Crowfoot to please stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not apologize for standing up for the people of this country. They're not being...
All right, so until the member does rise to apologize, the chair will not be recognizing the member. The honourable member from Peace River Northern Rockies.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just for clarity, this precedent that supposedly was set because of what I apologize for doing this. I said at the time, I said, if I did something wrong, then I'll apologize, I guess, is exactly what I said, but it still wasn't clear whether I had broken any rules. But I said, I'll never apologize for representing the people of Skeena-Buckley Valley. That's exactly what I said. So please don't take, there's no clear ruling on this that we even broke any rule by doing so. So please.
I thank the honourable member for that, and we will certainly take a look to making sure that everything is consistent. But from the advice which I've received from the officers at the table, this is certainly consistent. The honourable member from New Brunswick Southeast.
Thank you,
Southwest.
Mr. Speaker. I think the advice you're getting from the table officers has to be explained to this House. It is an honour to stand in this House.
So we are getting into debate. The matter has. So the chair did explain what was brought forward by the table officers. I'll ask members continuing for the patient, and we will be able to bring forward. I do see. I'm going to ask members to please take their seat for the moment before I go through on point of order. We are just pulling up the actual text right now, so we'll be getting back to members, so I'll ask members to sit down. On a new point of order, would any, not on the substance that has been brought up by this issue, would I thank members for doing that. Petitions, the honourable member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to rise to present my first petition of calendar 2024. It's perhaps not too late to wish all members in this collegial and loving environment a Happy New Year. I would like to present a petition, Mr. Speaker, from constituents who are concerned that we move towards a just transition, that in phasing out fossil fuels and winding down the fossil fuel industry, that there be a centering of workers in the process, that good green jobs and inclusive workforce development proceed expeditiously, expanding the social safety net through new income supports, decarbonized public housing, operational funding for affordable and accessible public transit. There are a number of other points of this petition, Mr. Speaker, but I think these are the salient points that petitioners hope the government will take on board and implement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So on the issue which was raised by the member from Peace River Northern Rockies, we did take a look at Hansard, and we did find that the member did apologize for breaking the rules. And he did, and I will invite members to go back and take a look at that, but the member apologized for breaking the rules. We do have that in hand, so we've just consulted. And indeed, the member had done, and he had presented his apologies. So I thank the member for doing so. The honourable member, there is no debate on this issue. There is just the presentation of this. As a matter of, the record has stood in terms of the House of Commons as to what had happened back in December. One moment, please. The honourable member from Brandon Souris is rising on a point of order.
Brandon Souris?
Who you? Member for North Okanagan, Sioux.
I'm sorry, the member from North Okanagan, Sioux. Forgive me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to bring to your attention your lack of consistency on this issue. The member from the NDP raised a point of order and you immediately followed, stating that when presenting petitions, it should be the matter of the petition only that is addressed. Immediately following, another member made a quite extensive presentation regarding the petition he was presenting. You did not intervene then, so why would you intervene in the issue with the member from Battleford Crowfoot?
It's not because you're partisan or anything, is it?
Order. Order. The member from Medicine Hat, Carson Warner, made a remark which accuses the chair of partisanship. That is not considered parliamentary. I invite the member to immediately stand up and to apologize, or will not be recognized by this chair. The honourable member from Medicine Hat, Warner Cards.
Mr. Speaker, my writing is Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner, and I would withdraw the comment, but these are comments that I hear from my constituents on a daily basis.
I thank the honourable member for withdrawing that comment. The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Chair. I want to draw the attention of the House to an incident on December the 15th. The member for Rimouski, Najet, Timawaskan, Les Basques presented a petition in the House. At the end of the petition, he said, "I hope that as a result of petition e4604, the Liberal government will finally understand that it needs to meet the expectations and needs of our students and researchers." I note that at that time, the Deputy Speaker objected to that statement, highlighting the rule. The Deputy Speaker said the honourable member may present only the content of the petition. He cannot present his point of view on the petition to the House. I just want to make this point because a member was about to raise a point of order on this subject. However, the Assistant Deputy Speaker at the time did not request an apology. I recall, this is one incident. I think there are many instances where members have been accused of going over the line in their commentary on petitions. When that has happened, other members have raised points of order. The chair has sometimes chastened the member, encouraged the member to speed up, encouraged the member to stop. It is without precedent that the chair would demand an apology from a member who engages in this fairly minor and somewhat subjective transgression of the standing order. There are many, many examples, and I've cited one of them from December 15th that I found in about 10 seconds of searching. But I could find dozens of such examples where, yes, members may have gone over the line a little bit. Yes, points of order may have been raised, and the Speaker may have even said, "You shouldn't do that. Remember that for next time." But it is not reasonable to simply make up a new standard and apply it to a particular member and require that member to apologize for such a minor infraction. So I hope, Chair, you will take all of that precedent into consideration and provide some clarification. Thank you.
So before we move on to a plethora of points of order, I'm going to comment on the issue which was raised by the member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan. it is indeed true that the member can point to many examples where members have made comments on petitions which have been presented to the House. That does happen from time to time, and usually it does get a rebuke by the chair or a reminder by the chair for members to just focus in on the subject of the petition. However, there have been instances where the chair, and in this case that was raised from December 15th, where the assistant chair when a member accused another member of lacking courage to present a petition or making a comment about the character, where the member was asked to apologize, and the member rose on his feet and did apologize if they had broken any rules of the House, which the chair had determined that they had broken the rules of the House. This is the reason why this is being asked for here today. This is a matter which the chair would be pleased to come back to members with more detailed understanding as to, or detailed observations as to what should and shouldn't be done. But let it suffice to say that it makes sense that for members to impugn the character of other members would be considered an act which is not parliamentary and usually would require an apology. This matter is now closed.